The way that I like to begin this is to identify some landmarks, because I believe that in thinking about the head, if you name a thing, if you name a landmark, it will at least get you thinking about that landmark. It's one of the things that it seems to me as an instructor here in New York City over the past decade is very important toward developing oneself in portrait work. What I've done for you today is to make a three-dimensional structural drawing, is more like what I'd call it, rather than a sculpture, of some of these landmarks, and I've tried to simplify the forms. I know it's not incredibly representational, but it's more like a structural diagram, as I said. And I did this for the purpose of articulating several of these landmarks, because I believe that when you name a thing, you begin to think about it. And I've observed over the last decade or so of teaching that quite a bit of learning to do the portrait effectively is identifying the parts therein. As we get the drawing underway, what we want to do is begin in slightly an unusual way, and that is to walk up and measure our model, which we're going to do in this following way. We're going to walk up and take a measurement of her tear duct to her chin, which, as I mentioned a moment ago, is just about halfway on the human head. You can see, just about halfway. And once we get that measurement of the tear duct to her chin, we're going to walk back over to the drawing and indicate that, not in the center, but over on the side. I'll go maybe here and indicate that distance. Then I will double that distance here. And so what I have now is a reference for the general life-size scale of the human head. To work with the human head, what you have to be conscious of is the fact that when you get the head too big, you can make the head look monstrous. So think about this when you're setting up the drawing. Don't feel limited by what's going on with regard to your measurement, but just be aware that overall the head scale is going to be about this big. We'll begin to draw now, and as we do, I'm going to begin by pushing Marissa's head up a little bit higher into the paper, and I think this is important because I believe that studying the structure or the relationship of the head to the neck and the upper body, particularly the clavicle bones, is one of the most misunderstood areas of the figure. So I would much rather frame her portrait by pushing her head up a bit higher. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to indicate a line of action between her head and her neck. And using the shoulder, I'm going to try to set up a series of very long lines that begin to get at what's going on with the head. When we turn our attention to tonal development, it's often been said that 5 values are a very good way to draw and to organize the masses of value in the human figure, not to mention the human head. And that's exactly what we're going to do. However, there's going to be a sequence to this, and it's actually as close as I get to a how-to. What I've tried to do is to, for the sake of very clear learning here, articulate what I'm going to be doing in the portrait, but in this little chart. So as I point to the very top of this, I've got the paper light in this square, and then I've got the false value dark in that square. And then as I go down this scale, let's allow this to stand for stages, for steps as I go. First thing I'm going to do is to articulate my darkest dark to give me range. The second thing I'm going to do is articulate my lightest dark to connect with the darkest one. The third thing I'm going to do is then to look at this area of light and lay in a tone, a mass for the middle light. The fourth thing is I'm going to go in and indicate a highlight. And then the last thing is I'll indicate the darkest light, thereby solidifying a sort of approach to massing in values. Now, I'm no longer restricting myself to 5 values. I'm thinking a little bit more about the construction relative to planes. And I see that near Marissa's eye socket, the plane is very clear, isn't it? It drops down. I use the eraser. I experiment with relative positions of things. Certainly, likeness is an important part of what we're going to be developing in through here, if we can get it. But you can see that light mass meander its way down the front of her face. You can see some of the light mass in through here, which might be lighter or darker, because again, we're not restricting ourselves to 5 values anymore. Go straight down or maybe down at an angle through this region and through here. You can see in a similar capacity, if you look at the front of the chin region, that there is a construction much like this running from the lower tubercle here up into the nose region on both sides. And what we want to do with that is to articulate a certain receding form that the chin might pull back away from the nose at an angle like this. So as I move this highlight around, I'm no longer thinking about that mosaic of dark and light, the broken glass analogy. I'm more thinking about arrangements in what I can convey of three-dimensional forms.